Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic and I've been doing a daily countdown of my 366 favorite video games of all time. Coming in at number 23 is The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. Oblivion is absolutely, positively amazing. It's the best Elder Scrolls game, and I don't really think it's very close, and for me, is the gold standard that I compare open-world role-playing games against. Cyrodiil is my favorite setting in the franchise. The game has the best main story, it has the best side quests, the best plot hook, the best spell casting, the best random dialogue, and it even has Sir Patrick Stewart. As the game starts off, you make your character a prisoner held in the capital city of Cyrodiil, the seat of the mighty empire, and it's called Imperial City. Okay, they could have done more with that one. As a massive surprise, who else appears but the Emperor himself? This is the guy voiced by Patrick Stewart, so obviously he's important and will be a major part of the story for many hours to come. Emperor Uriel Septim VII is being escorted by the Blades, his bodyguards, through a secret passage out of the city through your jail cell. However, he also recognizes you. He's clairvoyant and has some visions of the future and knows that you have a major part to play. So you get to come with him. As you journey through this secret path, your actions, both in combat but also outside of it, will help determine your character class. There's also a star sign you can choose from with an added bonus. But alas, the Emperor and his crew are ambushed by magical assassins, and you help protect them. While cornered in a dead end, Septim explains that he and all of his heirs are being targeted, and that he too shall perish. So he grants you the Amulet of Kings, which is really the thing signifying the king, and instructs you to find his friend, Joffrey, who knows of an additional secret heir. And then Patrick Stewart dies a disappointingly early, though memorable, death. I simply adore this section of the game. The way you can organically craft what your character's class is simply by playing to the playstyle you want to do is phenomenal, and the pacing of tutorials, exploration, and story beats are as close to perfect as you can get. If you wind up not getting the class you're looking for, you can also just edit it and even make a custom one if you want. The point of the classes is basically just which skills you start off with massive advantages in, though you can branch out through dedicated practice and grinding. So much grinding. Once you're escaped through the sewers, you're free to go wherever you want and do anything. You could go on this important quest presented by the Emperor's dying words, or you could, I don't know, do absolutely anything else you can think of. For now, we'll assume you're a good little hero of prophecy and go talk to Joffrey. Years ago, he was the leader of the Blades, but now he's a peacefully retired monk. Importantly, he knows about the secret heir, Martin, who is a priest and absolutely has no idea he's heir to the throne. Now it's time to go on a great big hike to the city of Kvatch. Travel in Oblivion is, like most Elder Scrolls games, terrific. The first time you get anywhere, you do have to actually go there, but then you can fast travel afterwards. But there's so much to do and see as you travel. The leap from Morrowind to Oblivion is almost comically large, and while Skyrim is prettier, bigger, and technically has more objects and events populating the world, I found the variety of it all rather lacking when compared to the incredible offerings of Oblivion. The game is still, I think, very pretty, and is one of the absolute best looking games of its generation, especially the skyboxes. Oh, look at it. Everything you're seeing here is totally base game, unmodded footage, and is exactly how this game would have looked in 2006, at least on an admittedly very impressive computer for the time. The sights and sounds of Cyrodiil are magnificent, but there's more here too. You can find shrines to different gods, random little quests, bandits, wildlife, and so many herbs to pick. Of course, every once in a while you'll run into other travelers, and that could inspire quests. It could also just be good conversation, and the world is populated with just a lot of things. Everywhere you go, you'll find something unique and exciting, and there's actually very little repetition throughout, making even just the areas surrounding each city unique and exciting as well. Before we get much further with the exploration and the story, it's probably about time I talk about combat. The combat in Oblivion is great, and while it does show some of its age, it still holds up very well. The big thing that's missing compared to, say, Skyrim is dual wielding, but I still prefer Oblivion's combat as a whole. You can swing your weapon in your right hand, and if you have a shield, you can also block with that, of course. There's also things like bows, which are fine, you know, it's a bow, you shoot an arrow, everything works. And the different types of weapons feel different regarding reach and weight and all of that. It's not really that exciting necessarily, because it feels fairly realistic rather than fantastical. But the thing that Oblivion does the best out of any Elder Scrolls game, and honestly maybe any game period, is magic. There are hundreds of spells you can learn in this game, provided you have a high enough skill in the appropriate school of magic, and you can pick one at a time through a menu, or you can set some quick options for your most used things if you want. Notably, in comparison to Skyrim, losing dual wielding does mean you can't mix spells in the same way, only able to use one at a time and not being able to do it while attacking with a weapon. But the sheer variety and, at times, specificity of them is a ton of fun, and that's not even getting to the coolest part. If you join the Mages Guild and work your way through the storyline there, you'll gain access to spell crafting at the Magic University. You also have this right away if you have some of the DLC, giving access to your own absolutely, totally awesome and amazing Wizard's Tower that I simply adore. And oh man, it's so cool! Anyways, with spellcrafting, you can take any spell effect and combine them into new spells, modifying tons of stats around them. You can modify the efficacy, the range, the cast type, if it has a splash zone, the radius of said zone, duration for things that would have one, just everything. And then, once you make the spell, you pay an amount of gold based on how much stuff you crammed into it, sometimes an insane amount of it, actually, and your character learns the spell you've created. Maybe you want to cast one spell to apply all of your buffs that you normally do, so you don't have to cast like 7 things in a row, and you get to maximize the uptime, allowing you to realistically do this mid-combat. Maybe you want to have a powerful fireball that also drains magicka from enemies it damages, allowing you to just keep casting it for basically forever. The options here are endless, and even if you're not a traditional spellcasting class, there's uses for everyone. So how do you get the money to pay for all of that? Well, you could spend a bonkers amount of time grinding and saving up, or you could do a well-documented item duplication hack that even worked on the Xbox 360 as well as the PC. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly how it worked, but I do remember it involving quick swapping weapons or something, and attacking an item as you drop it mid-air or something like that. Don't quote me on the specifics, but this is definitely how I got my gold back in the day. Be careful though, because I almost bricked our Xbox 360 doing this. You see, when you hit the item and it duplicates, it spits out like, I don't know, like 100, couple hundred of that item. I forget the exact number, but it's a lot of them. and it does it right in front of you. For example, I did it with rings because I could actually pick them up and hold them all before selling them to vendors, and it sure caused a lot of strain on the console, dealing with all of those objects suddenly spawning and then the physics of them bouncing around off the floor and everything else. Additional word of advice, don't do it with anything that is a light source or emits sound. I accidentally did it with torches once, and well, that was a major problem. I saved afterwards like an idiot, and then I could no longer enter the room those torches were in, because the sheer amount of processing power from trying to render all of the sounds of like 100 torches layered on top of each other, and then also trying to process 100 light sources all occupying like 2 square feet on the floor, froze the game and would cause the Xbox to overheat. Unfortunately for me, that room was also the castle keep of one of the major cities, so I just couldn't finish entire subplots anymore. And there's so many subplots from all the guild storylines, like the Thieves Guild and the Mages Guild, and who can forget the Dark Brotherhood, to some of the added DLC stuff, like all of the vampire shenanigans, and all of the city things. I'm trying not to spend too much time talking about Skyrim in this Oblivion video, but it's hard to not draw comparisons. One of the biggest letdowns of Skyrim to me was how empty the cities generally felt. I know that the northernmost region of Tamriel is a little less hospitable than the centralized Cyrodiil, but the cities in Oblivion feel much larger, even if probably often they're not. And they're more alive to me, with large civilly engineered districts, random quests you'll run into, and loads of totally trivial, unimportant activities you can do. The persuasion system is also, I think, way more interesting than just pushing for like a high speech skill. With a quadrant-based series of actions you can take to basically butter people up and try to improve their opinion of you, perhaps haggling with merchants or getting people to cooperate that may otherwise be hesitant, but sometimes the best way to get what you want is, just to bash some skulls and then not ask for forgiveness. One of my favorite subplots is the combat arena in Imperial City, basically being an entire gladiator arena with increasingly difficult series of opponents, some of which you even grow to like, with little side quests and dialogue options if you go and pursue that, getting to know them through shared trials and tribulations of gladiatorial combat and things outside of that as well, which makes the idea that these are, in fact, fights to the death far more compelling and interesting than just being a combat grind for rewards. But yeah, we're not doing any of that today. We're saving the world. You get to Kvatch to talk to Martin and find that the city is walled off and everyone is outside except for Martin. And that's not many people for being everyone, right? Well, it turns out there's a great big demonic invasion that sprouted up, and this is where the name of the game comes from. There's an alternate plane of existence called Oblivion, and these demonic portals are called Oblivion Gates. As you fight your way past the demons and into the city, you can talk to Martin and explain why you're looking for him. He's shocked, but he takes you at your word. However, he won't leave with you until that Oblivion Gate is closed and the remaining survivors of the city are safe. As cool as dragons are, Oblivion Gates are way cooler. Venturing forth into the great unknown each time you find one, and murdering demonic princes and all of their underlings in order to shut their entryway into the world as you continue through the story of stopping this entire invasion is amazing. And the greater plot points are also great, and I'll let you check those out for yourself. I will say that even in replaying it now, I felt more compelled to actually progress with the story than any other game in the franchise. Martin is a wonderful character, and he winds up taking the throne and is, shockingly, a very competent leader, despite his utter lack of training or experience. Also, he's Boromir, Martin's voiced by Sean Bean. I do want to highlight that often you're not charging into these gates totally alone, though. sometimes that is the case. There's a lot of great one-liners in this game, but by far my favorite, and this might actually be the funniest ambient dialogue I've ever heard in a game, is, "This is the part where you fall down and bleed to death." Oh, it's so great. Oh, man. Join me tomorrow as I talk about my 22nd favorite game, where I say with a straight face that a visual novel is one of the greatest games ever made.